Hello everyone, I'm Jared Kligerman and welcome to the first Think Tank Taste Test of the year. If this is your first time joining us for one of these, hello and welcome. The format's pretty simple. We pick a product or a category by a bunch of brands from it representing legacy, startup, and private label, bring them back to the office, try them blind, and then we share which one we like the most along with any trends and insights we think you are going to find interesting or helpful. If you've seen the first couple, welcome back. This one's going to be a little bit longer than those as we're trying to share a little bit more information and we'd love to get your feedback on this new format. Today we're going to be looking at popcorn as well as the snacking category at large. Snacking is a category that grows year after year in grocery, and we expect to see that continue for the foreseeable future as it very much aligns to our shifting lifestyle of constantly being on the go, always hustling, and just not having time to sit down and plan and prep and cook a more traditional meal. 59% of adults prefer snacking, and that jumps to 70% when we look at millennials. Building on that, IRI found that 47% of consumers are snacking 3 or more times in a day, and another 50% are snacking once or twice in the day. But it's not just about sustenance. Snacking is also a way for us to take a break, to have a quiet moment, to ground ourselves. And 82% of parents say that snacking is when they connect most with their kids. So we really do see snacks replacing a more traditional meal, not just from a sustenance standpoint, but also the occasion to bring this all together. On that note, the Frito-Lay Seasonal Index found that snacks are typically our go-to when we're headed out the door towards a party. Sweet and salty mixes are very much at the top of that list, but about 30% of consumers choose something like popcorn. Just to really give you an idea to illustrate how core to our culture snacking is becoming, 30% of respondents said they would forego social media, and another 20% said they would give up their cell phones if it meant that they could have a quiet moment with their favorite snack every day. Looking within snacking, salty snacks are certainly a major component of that. Those would be things like chips, which are the #1 snack food, followed by the protruded snacks like puffs and sticks and tortillas and tostada chips, which are growing very quickly in the United States. But really what's seeing a lot more innovation are better for you products. Now this could be something like taking a traditional snack and making it healthier. So that would be something like a Made Goods Crispy Square versus a Kellogg's Rice Krispie Treat. But when we dig deeper, consumers are really reaching for things like fresh fruit and vegetables, 84% of the time, followed by cheese at 79%, nuts at 69%, and popcorn at 60%. So why are we looking at popcorn today? Well, it's a healthier snack. It is the most requested from my team, and it's one of my favorite snacks, to the point that it was the late night snack at my wedding. But before we go deeper into popcorn and the taste test results, let's stay on snacking and look at a topic that a lot of you have requested, which is packaging. So with this better for you pushing all the innovation within the snack category, it's really being driven by consumers looking for those wellness products that are either going to help improve an ailment or help avoid an ailment down the road, or that it aligns and complements their existing diet, something like if they're keto or vegan. IRI suggests having a variety of claims on your package to help meet that diverse set of consumer needs. However, Packaging Digest found that consumers, particularly younger ones, trust brands less when the package is covered in information. I'd suggest keeping your packaging more on trend in the minimalist look, keeping with the clean label type of approach. If you're going to have a claim, keep it only one or true, and only if it truly differentiates you from everybody else in the category or is required to catch the eye of that consumer who otherwise might pass your product by. Another feature you might want to look at is having large, craveable food imagery on the front of pack, as it both helps consumers understand what your product is and the flavor that you're offering. Ladies just redid all their packaging this past summer with that very much in mind, and they wanted to highlight those ingredients. Another way to differentiate yourself to both buyers and consumers is the pack size. So as we were just saying, snacks are a reason to bring us all together, so you're dealing with larger groups, so having a larger pack size is certainly one thing to consider. But we found that 51% of Canadians want to see more better-for-you snacking options in on-the-go packaging. So shrinking package down to be more convenient is definitely going to catch the eye of consumers, but with that comes some environmental concerns, and we're going to touch on that in just a second. Over 2/3 of consumers say color is one of the main factors they consider when making a purchase. Pantone earlier this year said the color for 2020 is classic blue. It's a very bold, vibrant color, and it's very much matching a lot of the trends we see in package colors, which have gone to very bright shades, neons, and metallics. But before you go rushing out to redo your packaging, it's important to consider some long-term implications. Colors can be very cyclical and go off-trend as quickly as they come on-trend. And another thing to consider is who's going to be carrying your product. not only do you want to stand out against your competitors, but you also want to make sure you stand out against the retailer's private label and their own signage. So if everything they do is green, you're probably not going to be green in the same color, just as an example. Finally, the sustainability and transparency are becoming major drivers. So 40% of consumers like slimmer packaging or packaging that has minimal waste around it. They're also looking for packaging either made of recyclable materials or recycled materials, is recyclable, or is compostable. So if you're not only looking to replace your existing packaging with one of those options, this is a great year to do it, as it's only going to become more and more in demand as we move forward. Transparency, when we're talking about packaging, is referring to consumers being able to see your product before they purchase it. And we're seeing a lot of boxed goods starting to have windows in the front so you can see what the product looks like. And if it's more of a liquid, you're seeing bottles and jars going more to glass versus an opaque plastic. Transparency also refers to the ingredients being used. Consumers want to know that it is fair trade, sustainable, ethically sourced, so on and so forth. And beyond that, we found 63% of total shoppers are either extremely interested or very interested in eating clean. And within that 63%, 72% said they want to avoid chemicals and artificial ingredients in their food. So seeking out some natural and ingredients is probably a strong move for you, along with ensuring that your product list is small and using ingredients that standard consumers know and understand. We also see a lot of brands trying to make classics with improved nutrients through adding either vegetables and fruits or other functional ingredients. So we've seen a huge surge in the last while of protein being added to all sorts of snacks, as particularly younger consumers are looking for that high protein count. Another area we see growing quite a lot are things like whole grains and fibers across the board, as we start to better understand our gut biome and consumers are starting to look for things to boost that. Some other functional ingredients we saw starting to trend last year and continuing into this year are going to be things like mushrooms and adaptogens, the golden child of turmeric, and a new one coming into 2020 is collagen, which we're seeing pop up in a whole variety of beverages as well as snacks. There's all the collagen popcorn available for sale in the United States. From ingredients to flavors, while convenience is certainly the top driver of snacks, flavor is a very close second. On some surveys, flavor is actually the major driver. So we touched on flavor trends in our last video looking at cheese, and some of those certainly carry over into snacks. Consumers are looking for new flavor combinations, unique options, and they're looking for some international inspiration. Some emerging flavors are things like bitter flavors and butter flavors, along with citrus flavors, particularly in sour snacks. And for the sour snacks and citrus, we're looking at things like grapefruit and yuzu. There's a little bit of the international flair. Spicy continues to be a hot trend, but we're getting more nuanced. So we're seeing people identify which peppers adding that spice. There's a ghost pepper, Carolina Reaper, habanero, jalapeno. And we're starting to see some interesting blends with that beyond just your more traditional lime and habanero. We're starting to see things like Scotch bonnet and bourbon. So a few other examples of how this has played out in the market. Lay's announced this year that their Flamin' Hot Dill Pickle is now part of the ongoing family of products, not just a seasonal. I1 Organics launched a Korean barbecue protein stick, and hers in the United States launched a sweet roasted popcorn, which really mimicked the flavor of a grilled buttery corn on the cob, and it did exceedingly well last summer, and I would not be surprised to see it come back this summer. Now, finally on to popcorn. Now, here's a fun fact. Did you know that Chicago Mix is actually a trademarked flavor combination? It's owned by Minnesota-based Caneland Incorporated, and after a lawsuit stemming back from 2014, no other brand are allowed to use Chicago Mix. So expect to see that starting to disappear on shelves and start being replaced by things like cheddar and caramel mix in the next little while. While Ready to Eat had a slightly more modest growth of 3.4% last year, it's coming off of a crazy few years. And by that, I mean growth of 117% between 2012 and 2017, with a number of acquisitions during that period as the large brands recognized how popular popcorn was. And it's not disappearing. Cheetos just announced and launched this month in January 2020 that they are launching Cheetos popcorn, bringing their Cheeto powder, the orange delicious stuff that gets all over your fingers, to popcorn to help address the needs of consumers who want to see that flavor on more things. Now, as a consumer alert, pay attention to the packaging for popcorn. Now, it is relatively healthy, but it's only as healthy as what you put on it. So when you're looking at packs, those who call out a calorie count typically have it per cup. However, on the back, in the nutrition facts, the suggested serving size is more like 3.5 cups. I definitely eat more towards that 3.5 than the 1 cup. So just keep that in mind as you're snacking, that you need to check those nutrition facts. And consumers at large are getting much better about reading packages. Packaging designs within popcorn very much fall within traditional looks from the legacy brands as line extensions, while newer brands take some of those trends we were talking about before into consideration, using things like the brighter colors, clean labels, and having minimal health callouts on the front. The only ones we really see are the calorie count. We occasionally see things like non-GMO, no artificial ingredients, or all natural ingredients listed on the front, and whole grain. And those, even when they are done, are typically only done with small copy across either the top or bottom of the front panel, but typically we see them along some of the less key features like kosher, gluten-free, vegan, listed on the back as part of the description or underneath the description, more often as an icon than written out as text. Very much speaking to what we were saying before, that back panel is a much better place to put those claims if you want to have them on your package. It's time to look into our results from the taste test. As we were just saying, popcorn's only as healthy as the toppings, and we have a pretty healthy office. So it's not too surprising that one of the factors influencing some of this is that the sweet and salty outperform Chicago mix across the board, as just from the visual perception, looking at something covered in caramel is viewed as less healthy and potentially less delicious as something that doesn't have it if you're trying to stay healthy. When you start looking at what a lot of the emerging brands are doing, who are very much geared to that healthier snack segment, we're seeing them use things like avocado oil or coconut oil and seasoned with Himalayan salt, and not really offering indulgent options, maybe a skew or two, but certainly is not their primary focus. Given that we are a younger office, it's not too surprising that we reflect the larger younger generation who prefer salt over sweet. And for every brand we tried, at least one person said that it could be a little bit saltier, or conversely, it was a little bit too sweet. And we saw a similar feedback when we started to look at the combination of sweet and salty, or caramel and cheddar, across the board. There was at least one person each one that said it could be a little bit saltier. Looking on the flavors, that was definitely a big determining factor. We have, as mentioned, all those artificial flavors can really be tasty. We called them out in the chocolate energy bar one, and the same here. We could identify which brands were using artificial versus natural ingredients, and those who were using artificial tended to be lower in the pack than higher. Other factors that the top brands all had in common were their big and fluffy kernels, had a great crunch. There were very few kernel skins left, and very few unpopped or only semi-popped ones that get stuck in your teeth. And they were the ones that really stood out there, very visually pleasing. So very much on trend. So with no further ado, our office favorite was Angie's Boom Chicka Pop. Congratulations, Angie's Boom Chicka Pop, sweet and salty. We really liked it for all those aforementioned reasons. If you have a favorite popcorn, let us know what it is down below. Let us know what you think of this video, and of course, if you've got a category or a product type you'd like us to try, please let us know, as we're always looking for new ones to do. Once again, I'm Jared Kligerman on behalf of the Think Tank. Thank you for joining us for our taste test, and we look forward to seeing you at the next one. Bye for now.